Hey, good morning, class. Some of you have had me in class before, some of you haven't. My name is Lou Rio. I'm a dock builder. I'm a commercial diver. Spent a lot of time on the water. I've been a full-time health and safety instructor for the past 15 years. Prior to that, I taught for about a year and a half, part-time, while I was still outside on the tools. I'd like to talk to you about a couple things this morning, and it's geared around safety. You're just finishing up the concrete one, but there's a reference in there to the UBC's health and safety document as far as what OSHA is concerned, what the UBC is concerned, and how to protect yourself. I've seen too many tragedies, had too many times that I've had to show up at a funeral and present a Bible to a family due to the fact that there was negligence or somebody made a mistake. There are times when we do things that are beyond our control, other than the fact that you as a member should have control. Sometimes we're rushed, we're hurried, and we don't think. A few years ago, I was on the executive board with the local when the dock builders was 1456, and 2 weeks before Christmas, I had to go to a funeral. One of our members that came out of a pre-apprenticeship drowned, and he was working by himself on the water. And he left at home 2 young children and a wife. He just bought a brand new house. He came out of our pre-apprenticeship, actually, did his full apprenticeship. And this gentleman had fallen and hit his head. And when he hit his head, he was knocked out, and he was working by himself on the water. And he drowned. And unfortunately, the fireman that recovered his body was his brother. So it was very, very heartfelt by the community, the local, and his family. So anyway, I'd like to talk to you about a couple things, because a lot of times you are out in the water, you're by yourself, and you should never be by yourself. You should always work with a partner, especially on the water, because if there is a problem, you as an individual cannot always get yourself out of that situation. You should always carry not 1 but 2 knives on the water also. You get tangled in something, you can cut yourself out. And unfortunately, this man wasn't wearing a life jacket. And I brought him up through the apprenticeship, caught the tail end of his pre-apprenticeship. He was a super guy. When you're working on the water, or anywhere near the water, and you're doing concrete, there's a lot of things going on. There's barge movement, there's boat traffic, the water is moving itself. So you're in constant motion when you're working on the water. And it's very easy to slip or trip. So housekeeping's got a lot to do with it also. So in saying that, you're working around a lot of heavy equipment and gear as a dock builder and pile driver. And when you're doing concrete, you as an individual have several tools with you. You get your hammer, your tape. You might be working on a pile cap or a fender system, or maybe you're doing pile jackets. So you're constantly in a weird position or an awkward position when you're working. So in saying that, you're not always going to hear what's going on because of that equipment, but you still need to protect yourself. You know, back in 2008, George Bush instituted PPE for construction workers, and it's in 1926. And I know you've all had OSHA, you've all had fall protection in the past. I just want to emphasize a few things. These things are really cheap. The contractor's got to provide them. They're disposable, so if they get dirty, you go get a new set. And ideally, you can probably get the day out of 1 set, maybe 2 pair if they really get grungy. You pull your ear back, you pinch it, you roll it, and just put it in your ear, and you let it open up. And you can still hear, but it's going to be lowering the decibels enough where you're being protected and not injuring your ear. And I'm sure at times all of you have gone home from work, had the radio on, you get up the next morning, you got to turn the radio down because you started to suffer hearing loss, and the cochlea within inside your ear is slowly being damaged. Once you've lost your hearing, you've lost it. So you've got to wear ear protection, hearing protection. And I have hearing loss, having been in the Marine Corps, and what I did for a living. You also need to wear safety glasses. Now, when I came into the business, there were goggles, and nobody wanted to wear them. Today's goggles are fantastic. They're good pieces of equipment. They themselves are form-fitting. And you as an individual have the opportunity to get a set that are usually tinted or clear, or sometimes they're colored, like a yellow to magnify in the evening or at night, magnify the light. So there's no reason not to wear safety glasses today. Years ago, they were terrible. You want to be seen with them. Today, they're as good as they look like a set of Maui Gems or Ray-Bans. They're fantastic. The other thing is a hard hat. You as an individual should be wearing a hard hat at all times. You know, you can make reference to different things, but you wearing a hard hat is everything. It's part of OSHA standards. They need to be there. They need to be worn. All right, just because you have a hard hat and you don't wear it doesn't mean you as an individual are going to be safe. All right, you have to wear them. And the last thing I'd like to really talk about and emphasize today is life jackets. Life jackets themselves are designed to be form-fitting, to be worn. There's different styles. Now this is a life vest and it's very suitable to work on the water. It's Coast Guard approved. 1926.106A. If you take a look, John, go ahead and turn your book. On page 267, I'll read it to you. Employees working over or near water where the danger of drowning exists shall be provided with a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket or buoyant vest. Now, unfortunately, this gentleman was not wearing a life jacket. It probably would have saved his life. It would have kept his head above the water. He probably would have been injured. He was knocked out, but he'd be alive today and back to work, supporting his family. Too many times I've been on the water and I've seen members taking the foam out of their life jackets. Right? It's not a place, or the jacket shouldn't be compromised or its integrity compromised because you want to be more comfortable. I've seen members cut the foam out of the jackets and put beer in there so they can go underneath the piers. And you know, that's what the old timers did. And it's not a good way to work because if you do go in the water, you as an individual may be knocked out. I had an argument years ago, and there were times when, you know, I heard, "Oh, I'm a diver, I can swim." Well, most people can swim, you know, in New York and New Jersey area where the local works. Most of the members can swim. Some can't, but if you hit your head and you're knocked out, you're not going to swim. You're going to sink, and you're going to drown, unfortunately. If you take a look back at page 266, it enforces the fact that on OSHA 1926.102, within your OSHA guidelines, it enforces the fact that eye and face protection needs to be there. Right? Again, the employer's got to provide it, so there's no reason not to wear it. Employees shall be provided with eye and face protection equipment with machines or operations present, potential or face injuries from physical, chemical, or radiation agents. So if there's something there, it's present, you as an individual have to wear this. And the contractor's got to provide it. Now we're very fortunate, because I alluded to this before. Back in 2008, we as individuals were very fortunate because we were within the UBC. And our contract stated that PPE had to be there. Now, that's not the case for the non-union worker, all right? In that time frame, as of when George Bush signed everything into law, it's got to be there today. But I'm here teaching you or reinforcing some of the things you've already learned within OSHA and within fall protection. If there's a non-union trainer training a company's employees, they're not necessarily going to emphasize the fact the company has to buy the PPE for the worker for that company. We're very fortunate to be within the UBC. Gentlemen, you have to work safe. If you don't work safe, you know, you may wind up being like my young apprentice, the young journeyman who did drown. Are there any questions? Yes, John. Well, John, you know, I do know the family. I do know the family, John. Question is, John asked whether I knew the family or not, and if I stayed in contact with the family. Yes, John, I do stay in contact with the family. The family is doing very well, actually, and they got the big settlement, John. His wife got almost $6 million, but that still doesn't bring back the fact that he's lost and somebody else is now raising his children. Any other questions? No? All right, have a good night, gentlemen.